County, member of the committee.
Local Charles County from your district, member of the committee.
Bahati from Finance.
David Bahati, Minister of State for Planning and Minister of Finance. Director of Economic Affairs, Minister of Finance. Francis Tulansko, Assistant Commissioner of Express Department, Minister of Finance.
Daniel President, Senior Legal Counsel, Minister of Finance.
Kunda Solomon, Officer Business Policy, URA.
Called Opia Charles Vincent. I'm a business analyst at URA.
My name is Fiona Polo. I'm a supervisor in the Legal Services Department, URA.
Okay. Thank you, honorable members. And Minister, oh yeah, there's one. Sorry.
Oh, Kakoza James.
Okay.
MP Kabula County.
Thank you, honorable members, and the minister and your team from Ministry of Finance. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to today's meeting. And I start on a note of congratulating the minister for the good performance we are seeing in the papers today. And all you members, I believe we are all performers because performance is relative. How well you perform is relative, so don't be scared with what you're seeing in the papers. Our chair is on his way. He will get us at whatever point we would have reached. And like I earlier stated, this meeting should be as brief as possible but meaningful. We put the meeting to hold for some time because we are waiting for the response from the president. But we've got a response that the two tax bills that have not been returned, the tax and the tobacco, he has sent it to them. So the purpose of this meeting today is to meet the minister and his officials to update us whether they have any amendments, further amendments or not. And if they have any, they will present, we allow them to present, and you make your comments, and then we will have time next week to begin reviewing the other bills that have been returned and whatever has been amended. I thank you, and the Honorable Minister, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to first to apologize for coming in late. Because we are just two ministers to the station, and there are so many things that came in this morning, which we have to handle first. Second, I also want to say, Madam Chair, that if you don't mind, you keep your mask on because I'm so exposed to so many people. So for your sake, yes, and. Can you get a mask for the members? It's very important because we should not relax. South Africa relaxed a month ago, but now they're in mask bills. Yeah. So, Madam Chair, as we said, the committee invited us to have a discussion on the income tax, and last time they were presented to this house, to this committee. We have some additional amendments which we want to share with members.
Just a minute. Members don't have copies of what you are about to present.
And you share the amendment. Begin with the income tax. Did you share the income tax? I shared with them last time.
We're asking for the share additions.
Okay. The only additional is substituted, but the others were shared last time. And we can, so what we wanted was really to make one amendment, and in case there are any questions to answer, then we will answer there. We will give them a meeting will be short. So we have one amendment, and we are proposing it to the excess Duty Amendment number 2, Bill 2020, which is the proposed amendment is that clause 5 be included in the amendment Bill 2020, stating as follows: the Excise Duty Act is amended in Part 1 of Schedule 2 by substituting for Item 11 the following: sacks and bags of polymers of ethanol, ethylene, and other plastics under HS codes, which code is that have stated, imported or manufactured by a person without recycling plant in Uganda, except vacuum packaging bags for food, juices, tea, coffee, sacks, and bags for direct use in the manufacture of certain sanitary pads, 120%, or shillings 10,000 per kilometer of plastic bags. Kilogram per kilogram of plastic bags. And we have Kagwai wanted you to give the justification to this amendment so that we can we don't waste the members' time.
Thank you, Chair, members.
Sure. I wanted to ask the expert of tax to first explain to us what this
That's what he's going to do.
I think he will explain and then...
He will explain and then testify.
In the excise duty bill of 2000, the first one, we brought it an amendment to the effect that sacks and bags of polymers would attract shillings 120%. Would attract 120% of the value, or 10,000 shillings per kilogram, whichever was the higher. The reason we had done that was the amendment, was that there had been undervaluation, especially at the import level, where people would bring in these caveras at a very low rate. And when you apply the ad valorem rate of 120%, they pay very little. So there was a loss of revenue. And we said, let's fix it by having a specific rate of 10,000 shillings per kilogram. So that was the intention. This law, the 120%, started in 2014. But there had been a case in court. And we are not collecting the tax on the domestic cavera until last year, when the National Environment Management Act was passed by Parliament, and it clearly specified that these bags can be produced in Uganda, provided people have recycling bags, recycling plants. So when we passed this law, that time we had called the manufacturers, they're around 80,000. We didn't get them, but we got UMA at that time. But after the passing of the law, when they saw it, the manufacturers came to us and said, if you impose this tax on us now, which we have not been paying, we'll be forced to close, and all our employees, about 3,000 people, would have to go home because the tax would be too high for us. So we had a series of meetings under the chairmanship of Operation Wealth Creation. And I think I've showed the letter to the chairperson here. She has it. Where we agreed that, okay, let the 120% and the 10,000 remain, because it protects the locals against imported caveras. And two, we said, let us encourage, because we encourage local production, recycling here, by not imposing this tax on recyclers, but on those companies that don't have recycling plants. The companies that have recycling plants are about 46%, 46. The other 34 don't have, so they will be the ones to pay the tax as an encouragement on them to establish a recycling plant. Thank you.
Let me first take the opportunity to welcome the chair, who have taken his seat. And Chair, would you like to acquaint yourself first? Should I have members with us? Yeah. Members, I think we have one amendment, and he has given the justification. This is to avoid government continue to lose revenue, and also to encourage those who do not have the recycling plants to have them in place, and also to minimize competition from imported ones. So your views, please. Yes, Honorable Siagi.
Thank you, Chair. I will really request the experts to get more clearer. It's just wrapping, but nothing is coming out. Because there are things here which the spirit looks good to protect the local manufacturers. But here I have words which seem to conflict. Imported or manufactured, which means there are those who are manufacturing by a person without recycling plant. So how are they manufacturing? You make it clear for us. If they don't have a recycling plant, so how are they manufacturing? Because the statement said manufactured by a person without recycling plant in Uganda. So this person has no recycling plant, but is manufacturing this thing here. So you tax him 120%. So you give more meaning on that. Secondly, there is that part which says except vacuum packaging. Those except. You have food, juices, tea, a number of them sanitary pads. You make it clear, apart from those, which other uses are these things put? Because you say, if I say mine is for food, I'm free, I'm for juice. Is there any other things we pack apart from those? So if I pack a maize, isn't it food? I pack a beans, I say I've packed food. So where are we going to get these people now? Which areas can you give us where they usually bring them and use? So what I want you to separate between this import and manufacture, so that we know we are protecting the manufacturers. If I'm also manufacturing, am I not giving jobs here?
Furthermore, to that, you should also quite make us understand, what are these vacuum packaging bags? What are the vacuum packaging bags?
Okay. Honorable Kakoza.
Yeah. Of course, for me, I couldn't have a problem on the rate of the exercise duty, but I have a problem with the classification of the HS code. If the classification of each of the item is in the Finance Act, and if it's in the Finance Act, these two must be separated. What you want to do is to change the rate in the duty, but the classification, I don't think it's classified under 322321. If so, you must classify it separately, the imported and the manufactured. If you look at the HS code of these, so that it helps URA when I import, the classified HS code, because they hold percentages in these items. So it will be proper in the Finance Act. I don't know why Kagoi brought it under exercise duty. If the rate is okay, I have no problem with the rate, but the classification, the HS code, that's where I have a problem. That when I import, I'm under classified item of HS code, and then the manufacturer. I don't know whether you put it in the right place. Maybe I'll seek that clarification, because it would have come under Finance Act. If you are changing the rate, it's the excise duty. You see, there are two both here, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, that a classification of an item is under Finance Act. Not so. and then the rate is exercised as its own, which can be identified there.
I think he has got your point.
Yeah.
Let's take another one from Honorable Wasiko.
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to look at the cost-benefit analysis. You mentioned that there was a tendency to undercost and therefore pay little tax. I don't know how the measures that you have now prescribed in the amendment will impact on the revenue collection.
What can you?
I'll start with the last one. If an importer, let's say, brings 100 kilos of these bags, and he says these bags cost, each of them costs 1 cent of the dollar. So you are going to impose 120% on 1 cent of the dollar, which will be like 12 cents. That's what he will be paying in what he has brought. So what we have done here, because that has been a misclassification, we are saying no, we don't care what you tell us, but we shall count the kilos you have brought. So each kilo, you will pay 120% or 10,000 shillings, whichever is the higher. Therefore, you remove this maneuvering of the values. It's no longer very helpful to you to come and say it is 1 cent when you actually bought it at maybe 10 cents. So that incentive to undervalue is what has been captured by the 10,000 shillings.
I was saying you have a historical factor, okay? And that's why you've taken this stand. But I'm saying, how much do you expect?
The revenue,
yeah.
The revenue is 4 billion. That's what we expect.
What was the previous revenue level?
The previous revenue was 1.2 billion.
From 1.2 to 4 billion.
4 billion.
Yes. That's what I was looking for.
This included the ones with the recycling plants. And I'm seeing you are saying those with the recycling plants will not pay the 120%.
What had happened is that when we had the 120%, unfortunately, because of the lack of clarity in the NEMA law, there had been a case in 2012 where the manufacturers took URA to court, and court had said you cannot tax what you don't want, what you have prohibited. So, but URA collected on the imports, but it wasn't collecting on the domestic. So last year the law changed, the NEMA law, which allowed manufacturers to actually manufacture these products. And when that was done, we said let's start implementing. But this year, we brought an amendment. The only amendment we brought was to put in the 10,000 shillings per kilo. The other 120 was there already. But these people petitioned and said, you people, we hadn't known that this is going to be, no, the local. They said we didn't know. First of all, we have not been paying. Then we didn't know that this law had actually been passed, even to increase to 10,000 shillings a kilo. And they said we would have to close because we cannot pay. This is going to be very costly. So after meeting them under Operation Wealth Creation, I think I laid the letter to you. We agreed on the way forward that okay, let the tax remain, but let it be imposed on people who do not recycle, that they don't have a recycling plant. You can actually manufacture caveras, but after manufacturing, you don't take, you don't collect what has been used to go back into the production process. So that happens. Now we are saying, okay, the 46 companies who have done very well and you are contributing to protecting the environment, don't pay. But the other ones that do not have a recycling plant, they should pay. Because even imports, the importers don't have recycling plants here. So this should cover. That represents sort of like a cost of cleaning up what they have polluted on the ground. That is really the importance. On classification, Honorable Kapoza, we no longer use the finance house. Yes.
So the difference between your proposal under bill number 1 and the new introduction is the recycling rate.
Yes. Yes, that's actually the recycling. That was the compromise we reached, that the recyclers are exempt from the...
So does it increase the revenue expectations? Or
the revenues will come.
Does it increase? What does it change?
In a way, it is less, because we are not taxing the recyclers. So, yeah. But yes, which you have not been collecting from, but at least you will be collecting from the importers and the non-recyclers.
What is the justification for favoring the recyclers?
Because the justification is that they clean up the caveras they will produce. So if they have this one, they clean it and recycle it and make it, so it doesn't hurt the environment. But the one just dumps it and doesn't care how it is disposed. So that is the difference.
But Chair, you're now in the chair. I don't know. I don't quite believe you and take it in that these people, these associations are just going to come to government and say, you know, if you bring this tax, impose this tax, we are going to close up and collapse. Without, I don't know whether URA or Minister of Finance did a situation analysis, you know, to justify that these people at this point, and if we did this will bring them back. Is this how we are going to move? That manufacturers association will come and say, you know, once you bring this tax, we are going. Is there anything to justify that you did some kind of assessment or a situation analysis for us to take it that the ones who are recycling, if this tax was imposed on them, they would actually collapse, and collapse by when? Because you just don't collapse like that.
Madam, we did that, but because we didn't carry that analysis. No, what we did, that was a record of the meeting, but behind the meeting, there was a lot of work we did, because we did, yeah, we can provide it.
We need that as a committee to really, we can't only rely on some, yeah.
We have that. On the HS codes, Honorable Kapoza, I just want to say that since 2014, actually even before in 2008, that wording has been the same in the excise law. And even in the excise law that you first passed, Excise Amendment Bill 2020, that one which was returned, it was the same. The only thing that we are changing now, the only thing we have said we are changing is to exempt the recyclers from the tax. Nothing else. We haven't touched anything else. So the structure remains the same. And I just want to say that we abandoned, on the advice of Ministry of Justice, we abandoned using finance bill or finance bills back in 2014 or earlier. We have not been using them. On the question what are vacuum bags?
Yes,
For me, as a tax policy and a tax expert on the side of Minister of Finance, you cannot be advised on classification of groups of items, because these are international codes which are used on any item which is being manufactured. And I don't know what is your side as Minister of Finance, because if if these are HS codes on items manufactured, and it's a standard in the World Trade Organization. So I don't know how you relate both, that we are being advised here, whereas the international world is in a different.
Honorable Kakosa, we have the harmonized system code under the East African Customs Management Law, okay? And that harmonized system code lists all the products that are produced in the world. All of them, you'll find them there. And it does not, here what we have actually done, we have been compliant with that. Because when you import, URA will know that these are plastic bags that fall under this. So even here in the local production, URA is there, again the same people who will tell you that it's the same, whether it's imported, whether it's the same, it has the same code. If you manufacture this cup here, it will have the same code as an imported cup. It won't make any difference. So that is all about classification. It is giving an item a unique identifier, irrespective of whether it's produced or not. Vacuum packing bags. Those are bags which you produce, and you can put some a product in there, and air will not enter. So as a result, there will not be damage to that item. It's mostly used in foods. And yes.
So, Madam Chair, that's the only amendment we had this morning. Unless there is any clarification to make to the committee, we are done.
So the wording here, you put it 120 or 10, whichever is higher.
Okay.
Yes. Chair, I just wanted to put this together. Since already here in the amendment, you have put in the classification codes, and the owners to identify that this is the exact product under this classification is in the URA. And we have been having problems. One of the main challenges URA is facing is misclassification. Can I know from URA, given situations like this, how have you moved this to enough of that challenge? Or how are you mitigating it? Misclassification. Because you see here now, we have already stated the classification of what? Of the items. And it is you to identify that this item is either truly classified as this or it's wrongly classified as that when it's actually different. So the onus is on URA. For us, it's to make the tax.
So you are questioning them?
Yes. So how has URA prepared themselves to?
URA, from the experience and practice, how have you been handling this challenge of misclassification?
We have a tariff unit that is responsible for any queries on classification. So they offer guidance. Within the customs electronic system, there is a provision through which you can apply and submit any query, and the classification will be sent depending on the details that you will submit. And also, this amendment will actually help with reducing challenges of misclassification, because you see one of the sources of challenges has been with excise duty. Excise duty is charged both at importation and for local manufacture. Now, if the description within the excise duty schedule does not match that in the HS code, then there will be a challenge of classification. So when you have them matching, such as with this amendment, where it makes reference to the HS code, then the challenges of classification are actually reduced.
But Chair, before the Honorable, I think staff, what the member wanted to know, if I come as an importer, I have goods,
I declare a different classification for purposes of taking advantage of taxes or payment. What system do we have in place to stop that?
In fact, to add on that, Honorable Minister, is within here, there is an exception, that except for vacuum packaging. So how will you know that this one, when it says this is vacuum packaging, is actually the other one, which must be something different? That's what I wanted to know.
Yes. When the items are brought for customs, there is an inspection that is done. So the inspecting officer, customs officer, will determine whether the item has been properly classified. And if it hasn't been properly classified, it will be reclassified, and then an additional assessment will be given. It is actually a common scenario.
Allow him explain, because you are.
We have a problem. You will take to us that this is finance committee, that classification has been a big challenge. And sometimes URA has been asking for money to establish a law to prove that this item is actually this one and not the other. So this one I was trying to say, how are you placing it now? Because seeing it by a customs officer may not necessarily enable him to authentically say this is the item.
The chair wanted to request, because I think we not come with somebody from customs, we could give that explanation in writing this afternoon.
Okay, that is accepted. Yes, Honorable Siagi.
I wanted expert. I'm about to understand what you mean by imported or manufactured. Now, imported is obvious. They are coming from out, so you tax them at 120 or 10 per kilo. Now, the manufacturers, there are now two categories. There are those who recycle. Thank you that you are leaving aside those who recycle, because they are helping with the environment. How about the manufacturer? Isn't there a difference between me who manufactures here, but I don't recycle? Don't I have a difference with the importer? Can't I have some favorable, because when I'm manufacturing here, I'm also giving some services. I get materials here, I employ people. Now, am I not better than an importer? Can't you have some regime for a manufacturer who doesn't recycle, different from importer?
What happens for an importer? First of all, under this law, it doesn't offer protection. It is like a polluter pay policy. Yes. If you are polluting, you pay to the extent of the pollution. So that is the reason. However, when you are importing, you pay an import duty of 25%. On top of this, you pay 6% withholding tax. You pay an import levy, and what we call the infrastructure levy. So there are all these levies that an importer pays that a local manufacturer doesn't pay.
I think that brings us to the end of our day's meeting, and I want again to thank the minister and your team, and I think you can take leave. But for members, we have a brief in-house before we can adjourn the meeting.